Hello, welcome everybody to Thermador's first public installation training. Today we're going to be talking about the 2024 Thermador built-in refrigeration general installation process. Today I have with me Courtney Wright, our co-host. She is the product manager for Thermador Refrigeration. During the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function up at the top of your screen. There you can submit questions and we will try to answer them as we go. Towards the end of this presentation, we'll have probably roughly 10 to 15 minutes to answer questions. So let's get started. So the information you are learning today is for illustrative purposes only. Carefully read the installation instructions and use and care manual before installation or operation of the appliance. All safety warnings and precautions should be observed. Products and specifications are subject to change without notice. So let's take a look at the actual product. Then we'll go into safety information. We'll go over how to read the instructions, the general installation procedure, some common installation errors and frequently asked questions, and then where you can access the full installation video. Excellent. It's very exciting. So my name is Quentin Dorval. I'm head of Technical Center for Customer Service North America. So my team is responsible for the technical documentation, training and competency, and technical support. From your perspective might be the installation hotline. So this new model has 3 different sizes and a couple of different variants. We have 48-inch panel ready and PAX units, which have the panels pre-installed. We have 42-inch and 36-inch. We have 36-inch top door, single door that is reversible, again in panels models and panel ready models. Safety information. So the appliance is extremely top heavy and may tip over. The appliance must be transported by 2 or more people. Do not remove the appliance from the pallet until it is ready for installation. You want to keep it on the pallet as long as you can. Keep the doors and drawers closed until the appliance is fully installed. The appliance must be installed by 2 or more people as soon as it is no longer secured and is removed from the pallet. Be sure to secure the unit using the supplied tilt protection bar. You may know it as the anti-tip bracket. Do not leave the appliance unattended during installation. Warning, the high weight of the appliance may result in injury when lifted. Do not lift the appliance on your own. Incorrect installation is dangerous. Connect and operate the appliance only in accordance with the specifications on the rating plate. Connect the appliance to a power supply with alternating current, AC, only via correct installed socket outlet with grounding. The protective conductor system of the domestic electrical installation must be properly installed. Never equip the appliance with an external switching device, for example, a timer or remote control. When the appliance is installed, the mains plug of the power cord must be freely accessible. If free access is not possible, an isolation switch must be integrated into the permanent electrical installation according to the installation regulations. When installing the appliance, check that the power cord is not trapped or damaged. Never let the power cord come in contact with heat sources. If the appliance's ventilation openings are closed off, a leak in the refrigeration circuit may result in a flammable mixture of gas and air. Keep ventilation openings in the appliance casing or the integrated casing clear of obstructions. It is dangerous to use an extended power cord or non-approved adapter. Do not use extension cords or multiple socket strips. Only use adapters and power cords that are approved by the manufacturer. If the power cord is too short and a longer one is not available, please contact an electrician to have the domestic installation adapted. Caution, touching sharp edges on the appliance may lead to cuts. Be sure to wear your protective gloves. The heavy weight of the appliance, if not rolled in a straight line, the appliance casters may damage the floor when the appliance is moved. Transport the appliance using a hand cart. Use floor protection when moving the appliance and do not move it in a zigzag fashion. Condensation may form on the casing due to lack of air circulation. Never remove the spacers from the rear of the appliance. Never remove the spacers from the side of the appliance unless this is described in the installation instructions. When the appliance door is closed, the mullion rail should be closed, flushed with the door edge, or damage may occur. Never operate the mullion rail manually. If the mullion rail has been open, rotate it closed, which is flush with the door edge, before closing the appliance door. Using the base, runners, or appliance doors as a seat, Using the base, runners, or appliance doors as a seat or climbing surface may damage the appliance. Do not stand or lean on the base, runners, or doors. If the water pressure is too high or too low, this may impair the function of the appliance. Make sure that the water pressure in the water supply system is at least 29 psi with a maximum of 116 psi. If the water pressure exceeds the maximum value specified, the pressure reducing valve must be installed between the drinking water connection and the hose set of the appliance. Modified or damaged water hoses may result in material damage and damage to the appliance. Never kink, crush, modify, or cut through water hoses. Never reuse water hoses that have been used before. If you clean fittings and accessories in the dishwasher, this may cause them to become deformed or discolor. Never clean fittings or accessories in the dishwasher. So let's take a look at the BSH installation instructions for this product. We're going to look at the symbology and its meaning, and we're going to look at the digital resources that we have for you. So our installation instructions are available in 3 languages: English, French, and Spanish. Safety and warning information is written in clear language. In the manuals, we use multiple measurement systems. We use both imperial and metric. The instructions are written with a logical approach, and symbology is used for most instructional steps. So how do we read these installation instructions? They're divided into sections, and they're separated by a vertical or horizontal divider. So you can see this gray bar here, the divider. You're going to read from left to right, then top to bottom. The left side will indicate the materials needed for the next step. So this is everything you need to proceed. The right side will contain warnings, options, information, or instruction. If information only is presented, you will see this I symbol. Not necessarily on the left, it could be on the specific step we're referring to. Decisions are presented to you as a question mark. This is where the installer has to make a decision based on the situation, on how to proceed and what path we need to take to go forward. Optional steps will be shown as a dashed line. You don't have to complete these steps. They are completely optional. They're just there because it's the most opportune time to take advantage of whatever the situation is. As you can see here, we're moving the dolly from the back of the appliance to the side of the appliance. Do you have to? No, you do not. You could transport the appliance with the dolly on the back. Proceed to next step is indicated by gray arrows. The gray arrows, when they disappear, that means that the section of instructions that you are following, you have reached the end of that path. Correct actions are indicated by a check mark, and incorrect actions are indicated by an X mark. So where do you find the installation instructions if you want to check them out before you do an installation? If you have not done one of these before, or any installation for a specific product, you should take a look at them ahead of time. You can navigate to the Thermador brand website. In this case, we provided a QR code for you, but it is thermador.com. You click the search icon in the top right-hand corner. You're going to enter the SKU in the search bar and hit enter. Click on the product results. And below the product images, you will see an icon that says manuals. And there you will find installation instructions. They can be viewed on a PC, iPad, iPhone, Android device, most mobile devices that support PDF files and web browsing. So let's take a look at the general installation procedure. We're going to look at what tools are required, installation parts, how to prepare the niche, the anti-tip bracket installation, moving the appliance, and additional procedures, and installing the trims. So tools that are required for this installation, you need an appliance dolly that is capable of lifting 770 pounds for the 48-inch appliance. You need a tape measure, bubble level, pencils and markers, box cutter, a hammer, flathead screwdriver, a cordless screwdriver with a 90-degree screw bit attachment. It's very, very helpful. Drill bits in case the back wall is stone. So you'll have 1/4-inch masonry bits or 16th-inch standard bits. You need T20 Torx bits, 1/4-inch extensions, 5/16 hex, and a 13mm open-end wrench, a ladder, and most importantly, before you power on the appliance, you should check the outlet with a multimeter. So what we've done for this series, if you have not installed one yet, is all the installation parts are easily identifiable. There's printing on each box to indicate what is in that box. This is to help aid you to differentiate between what's an installation material and what's a packaging material. The only thing that doesn't have printing is the power cord and literature pack, and it's in a styrofoam kind of bucket, and you will see that in a little bit. There it is. So the installation manual and power cord are now found inside of a foam part in the front of the appliance. What's in there is the power cord, the literature pack, which includes the use and care manual, the installation manual, and supplemental documents. So this should be the very first thing that you take off the packaging. The installation kit with all the hardware is in the box labeled installation kit, and it is at the front right of the appliance. What's inside there are all the different brackets, the screws, anchors. There's a mixture of wood screws and metal screws depending on what you need. Mounting bracket covers, 90-degree stop pin. Keep in mind that on integrated or custom panel models, they'll have additional screws for mounting the custom panels. The anti-tip bracket is found in the box labeled anti-tip bracket. It's at the front of the appliance. It does not have any hardware in the box. All the hardware for the anti-tip bracket is in the installation kit. The trim kit, these are the trims for all the doors or the spacers for the cabinetry. Those are found in a box labeled trim kit at the back of the appliance. Always measure the niche prior to installation. You want to make sure that the water supply and the power supply are in the correct locations and within reach of the appliance. We recommend that the water and power should be in an accessible area of the adjacent cabinet. It's not required to have it on an adjacent cabinet, but is highly recommended. In the event that there's an issue with the water or the power, that it is accessible without having to remove this from the niche. Dimensions are found in the installation manual and on the product specification sheets of our website. What's really important is these new units are always installed at a height of 84 inches from the floor to the top of the unit. In the event that the niche is more than 84 inches, we have a filler trim that is installed just before you slide in the appliance that will take up the difference. So, but the height of the appliance and the anti-tip bracket will always be installed at 84 inches. Oh, there it is. If additional height is required, the top filler trim is used to fill that gap. And you take a measurement, and depending on what that measurement is, you would select A, B, or C. You cut along the trim to the appropriate height, A, B, or C. So this appliance is very top heavy and may tip over. Secure the unit using the applied tilt protection bar or anti-tip bar. The anti-tip bracket is required to be installed, and the installer is solely responsible for the safety of the installation. You should measure the rear width of the niche and mark a center line. You're going to measure and mark a line at 84 inches from the floor. The anti-tip bracket is always installed so that the top of the anti-tip bracket is at 84 inches and in the center of the niche 100% of the time. You're going to locate and mark the wall stud locations using supplied masonry anchors for brick, concrete, and stone, or you can directly screw in with the screws. You should pre-drill and install the 4 screws into the studs or anchors. The bracket is now designed to where the bracket will stay within the center of the niche at an installation height of 84 inches at the top. And we have holes all along this bracket, which will allow you to match up with the studs. What's also very important is that the depth of the installation bracket is correct. So everyone's niche might be different depths. It is up to you to build out the depth of the anti-tip bracket until the front edge is no more than 21 inches from the front of the niche. So if you need to, you can build this out with wood or bracketry that is strong enough to match this depth. So to prepare to move the appliance, you're going to remove the packaging materials. Be sure to set all of the installation materials to the side. Again, they're labeled in boxes. You're going to open the lower drawers while it is still on the pallet. Remove the water filter and the trim. You're going to close those drawers and remove the brackets from the sides of the appliance. There's a lot more screws and 3 different brackets on each side of the appliance. These units are much heavier than some of our predecessors, and it's important that you remove all these brackets. A nice helpful hint is that when you're setting your dolly in between the pallet and the appliance, you can leave the opposite side brackets slightly loose just to make sure it helps remain stable. So you're going to insert the dolly between the pallet and the appliance, either on the left side, right side, or rear of the appliance. It's up to you how, what's comfortable for you and your installation team. A good practice is to measure the corner of the dolly at the bottom of the wheel to the very top corner of the appliance, depending on how you have it on the dolly, to observe a tipping radius. This will make sure that you don't hit doorways and ceilings as you're moving the appliance in. So again, you measure from the bottom of the dolly wheel to the top corner of the appliance. We do have some measurements in the more recent versions of the installation. This is to tell you that of what the tipping radius of the appliance is, but it is still up to you to identify the distance between the corner of the dolly and the floor, and you have to add that to the tipping radius to make sure you don't hit the ceiling. So again, put the dolly between the appliance and the pallet. One or two people will push the appliance up onto the dolly and off the pallet. You're going to move this into the kitchen and set it in front of the niche, but do not push it in. You're going to install the mounting brackets, the lower mounting brackets. These brackets are really important, and sometimes we find that they're not installed. What this prevents is the appliance from rolling or moving the bottom half of the appliance in and out of the niche from normal use of the drawers. So it is very important that you install them. You're going to install one on each side using the two included screws. You're going to install the power cord. Be sure that the power cord is fully inserted and that you hear it click. It should snap into place. In the back of the appliance, you want to make sure that you do not plug in the unit yet, and you want to make sure that there are no kinks or damages to the power cord. You're going to push in the appliance and pull through any of the slack on the water line and power line. So you can see we're feeding it through the niche here. And as we push the appliance back, we're going to take a moment to stop and pull through the slack. This is how you prevent kinks or damages. If the socket or water tap are behind the appliance, there's an old trick that you can use where you throw a piece of string over the appliance, loop it around the power cord and water line, and bring the other end back around. So now you have two strings. And as you push the appliance back, you can gently tug on that string, which will bring up the slack until you get the appliance all the way back into the niche. When you're ready to release it, you just pull one end of the string and it just kind of makes a U shape and lets the power cord and water line go. It's a really, really nice trick to avoid kinks. So you're going to connect the water of the appliance. What is really important is that the first few thousand of these units have a flat fiber washer included inside. It's actually zip tied or bread tied to the water line at the end of the hose. So you'll see a plastic bag. You want to make sure at this point here that we turn off the power because we're not ready for it to be booted up yet. And you're going to have this bag at the end of the hose. This bag is there just to make sure that if the O-ring were to dislodge itself during transport, that it ends up in this bag. There's also a warning and instruction in there for the models that have this, that you need to install this flat washer. So the fiber washer is blue in color. It's a fantastic washer. It just requires you to make sure it is inserted into the hose before you attach. Later models have an integrated O-ring. So if you do not see the paper or the O-ring tied to the hose, take a look at the end of the hose, and if you see a black integrated O-ring, then you're good to go. There's nothing you need to do. There's no advantage or disadvantage between the two different methods. We just found it was easier for the installer to make sure that the water connection was leak-free when we pre-installed the O-ring into the hose. So you're going to make the connection, turn the water on. This is presuming that you have flushed the water lines ahead of time. You're going to turn that water on, use an inspection mirror to inspect for leaks. No leaks are found. You're okay to go ahead and then plug in the appliance. Remember, we turned the power switch off, so the appliance should not boot up yet. So here we're going to level the appliance. When leveling the front of the appliance, you should use the red indicator gauge that comes in the installation kit. On the base floor of the appliance, there's actually an embossed line. This is your final installation height. So you set your right angle gauge on the floor right in front. You're going to have your partner pushing on the appliance to kind of take the weight off the front. And you're going to lower down the front legs using the lower set of screws. You can use a drill on a low speed, but if you go too fast, you will break or strip out the cam. So it is important that you go slow and controlled. You will find most installers that have worked on our products before will install, will lower the leg at the front on the right, touch the floor, maybe go a little bit further, and then they'll switch and you go back and forth until you get to close to your installation height. To lower the back legs, you're going to use the upper adjusters. Your partner is going to open one of the doors and gently lean back. The goal here is to take the weight off the back legs, and you're going to basically lean back, lift up the back of the appliance just enough to touch the anti-tip bracket. If you pull too hard, you could dislodge the appliance from the anti-tip bracket, and then you're going to have to lower it all again and push it back and start all over. So just gently lift the weight off the back legs as the other person is lowering the back legs. This will prevent any damage to the gears. What you do not want to do is you do not want to jam the appliance against the anti-tip bracket. It just needs to kiss the back of the anti-tip bracket just to make sure it doesn't tip out during normal usage. Once the appliance is level and in its final position, you need to make sure that the reveal is 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Feel free to adjust any doors as necessary. You're going to put the screws in the lower brackets on the right and left of the appliance, and you're going to install the screws in the top brackets on the left and right of the appliance. These are not anti-tip brackets, but they're designed to hold the product into the niche. When you are ready to install the covers, there's a nice little trick to help make sure that you don't accidentally break any of these tabs on these covers. Is you insert a flat blade screwdriver, just give it a gentle twist to open the spacing and it will snap right in. You're going to cover up the brackets on the left and on the right of the hinge pocket. It is important that the flex drawer user interface is flush with the top of the door. So to make that adjustment, if it's necessary, you're going to remove the nuts from each side. You're going to adjust the bolts that have kind of a platform washer secured to it, which will allow you to adjust up and down. The flex drawer UI does have oblong holes here, which will allow you to move the interface backwards, forwards, kind of side to side as necessary. But once you flush it and bring the UI to the front to close any gaps, you can lock down those nuts. We do have new trims for the tops of the drawers that are quite easy to install. For the Flex UI, you're going to tuck the center cutout underneath there's a channel cut into the Flex UI. So you're going to feed it into the channel and put a slight bow on it. So that way you can clear the left and right of the brackets. Once you have lined the slots up, you push it down to lock it into place. All of the trims, by the way, install the same way. So the only one that's the most difficult is the Flex trim. The other ones you will see on the back side, this is all in the installation video, but on the back side of that trim, you will see these little black clips and they line up with the slots and push down. It's incredibly easy. So let's talk about some common installation errors. No ice production. This will be due to a kinked water line or the water tap is shut off. So be sure to properly route the water lines, turn on the water tap and pull through the excess. Water pressure and the flow is too low or it was not checked. So this is part of that flushing procedure to make sure you have the proper water pressure. And again, always make sure that you flush the water lines before connecting the line to the appliance. This is especially prominent in new construction. You don't want debris entering into the appliance. Appliance cannot be leveled or removed from the niche. Some common root causes for this are the rear legs are stripped. And that's from overextending the legs and forcing them against the anti-tip bracket or the niche. Push or tilt the appliance to remove the weight while leveling. So one person should be taking the weight off the legs while the other person is making the adjustments. And again, the unit should just touch the anti-tip bracket. It should not be forced or wedged into the niche or onto the anti-tip bracket. Just bring it up to 84 inches and you're done. Missing or improperly installed trims. Be sure not to throw away any installation materials and be sure to install all the trims. If it's optional, because you don't need it, it will show that in the installation manual with the dotted lines around that step. So be sure that you don't need it before you throw it away. Anti-tip bracket not installed. Again, we mentioned this earlier, the installer is solely responsible for a proper and safe installation. Extremely important to put that anti-tip bracket in. Appliance does not cool or function. The most common reasons that this occurs right after installation is the power supply is incorrect or is missing voltage. So you could have a drop neutral, your 120 is not 120, it's actually 70 volts. Looks like the appliance is running, but it's not powered up completely. So everything's working but the compressors because there's not enough voltage at the outlet. Be sure to check with a multimeter to verify proper voltage and polarity. It's also important to do this while it's under load. So you plug in the appliance, you may turn it on for a short period of time to check. So you can see the complete installation video on our Thermador YouTube channel, so you can scan that QR code. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And your feedback is incredibly important to us, so please take a moment to scan that QR code and tell us how you feel about this training. We expect to do more of this in the future, but we need to hear it from you. So let's go ahead and move into the questions and answers. So, who is responsible when a customer uses a third party for installation and then an authorized servicer goes in for service and notices all the discrepancies? So if the consumer paid for installation, ultimately the consumer is responsible for the installation of the appliance. However, the consumer may contact that installer for reimbursement or the dealer. It is very much a difficult situation, especially for service technicians. When they do find installation issues, it can be quite difficult, quite uncomfortable conversation is probably the best way to put it. If for some reason that a service technician feels that the customer should not be responsible for that installation error, then it is important that that service technician calls in to the contact center and asks for goodwill. Installation errors are not covered under the appliance warranty, just like transportation damages are not covered by the appliance warranty. We do have some cosmetic defect coverage for the first 60 days after delivery. But again, all of this does require goodwill authorization. We had a question for, are the leveling cams metal or plastic? Actually, it's both. So it's a hybrid of metal and plastic. And the front cams and rear cams are slightly different. What is important is if you have the secondary person taking the weight off the appliance legs, you should have no issues at all. And as long as you don't force the appliance into up against the niche or up against the anti-tip bracket, should be perfectly fine. You'll never break them. Just be slow and precise. Okay. So we did have a question looking for instructions on how to change the wiring for the camera and the door when changing the direction of the 36-inch model. There were a few appliances that did not have the instructions on the 36-inch for the door reversal. Those have been posted to the website once we became aware of it, and we have double checked all of the appliances in production to make sure those instructions are now included. You should not have to change the wiring. There were a few that the wires were a little bit short. If you need assistance with that, you can call into the installation hotline and they will help you relocate the harness. Okay. We had a question for, how do you take off the toe kick on the new unit? So the toe kick on the new unit is extremely similar to our predecessor. Let me find that slide, one moment. Okay, so at the bottom of the grill, you're going to go in not the first slot, but the second slot, and in the slightly into the grill, you will see a white plastic tab or a gray plastic tab. You're going to insert the screwdriver on the left side of the tab if you're on the right side of the appliance, and you're going to push it to the outside. Same goes on the left side. There's actually a small little slot right here underneath this water filter cover, and you're going to insert the screwdriver into the slot. When you watch the installation video, we show very detailed up-close shots of this because we do recognize some people have difficulty with it. Once you do it, it's very easy. So once you've done it a few times, you'll have no issue. But please watch that video on the Thermador YouTube channel, and there's some great, beautiful up-close shots of that process. We did have a question about column units, and that is outside the scope of the discussion here. However, please, if you have an issue with the column units during installation, please reach out to the installation hotline. They will guide you. I see. Okay. So we did have a question about, because you can't see the mounting holes when the doors are closed, it can be difficult to make sure that the appliance is aligned. It's a fair point. So how I do it and how I've seen a lot of installers do it is you want to align the appliance into the niche, make sure that the reveal around the doors is correct, and open one door at a time. What is very helpful if you have your partner kind of just make sure that it hasn't shifted. So you just observe the top of the appliance and the door adjacent to it against the reveal of the appliance, the reveal of the niche. And you will see if it starts to lean forward, you may need to adjust your legs or just gently take some of that forward pressure off until you get the screws in place. It could happen where you have enough of it, and you don't notice it, you put it all back to, you put all the brackets in, you close the doors and you go, oh, I need to readjust it. It's possible. And may need some adjustment, but usually I think just taking some of that forward pressure off of it when you open the doors is enough to put it back into the niche. When the legs are down on this model, it's pretty balanced. It's a good question though. We had a question. Can the leveling legs, leveling cams be replaced if they get stripped? They can, but only by a service technician, and it is not covered by the appliance warranty. So the consumer or installer will be expected to pay for that repair. Can these units be joined together? Courtney, that's probably a question more for you. Can the 48-inch units be joined with other appliances?
No, they cannot be attached side by side with our current column refrigeration. Two 36-inch bottom mount refrigerators from the 24 collection can be side by side attached and installed.
There you go. That's a good question.
We recommend for a side by side installation to use a 5/8 partition, and you can find more instructions on that type of installation in the Thermador design guide on the Thermador website.
Excellent. Thank you, Courtney. The installation hotline number is 1-800-554-9509. And I will put that into the chat for you, or the Q&A section. So it looks like there is another question about using the top spacer to make up the difference of the 84 inches to the top of the niche. I'm going to ask you to kindly either send your salesperson from BSH an email regarding this, or call into the installation hotline to report the issue that you're experiencing, and we will take a look at that and see if it's something installation related or in the design of the spacer, but I have not heard of that issue. Okay, with framed cabinets, the spacers no longer touch the side of the cabinet. Are the spacers for ventilation and condensation? It's a great question. So that we tell you not to remove the spacers, and that's because once you push the product into the niche, you may not see the distance between the side of or back of the appliance and the associated niche. So we tell you don't remove it. There are cases where you will need to remove the spacers. So for example, if you're installing it in a 47.5-inch niche, you will have to pop the spacers off, or sometimes when joining the columns together, you may need to pop them off. But you should not be removing the spacers unless specifically instructed in the installation manual. They are for ventilation and condensation prevention, and that's because you can't see how much space is between the appliance and the wall. So unless specifically instructed to remove those spacers, you should leave them on, and they will help bounce the appliance back and forth. So as you're pushing it into the niche, it'll bounce off the cabinetry to make sure that the appliance is as centered as possible. Just be careful not to force it through the front opening of the niche, or you may cause damage to the reveal. It's a great question, though. Can service check for 120 volts at the front of the unit if the outlet is behind the unit? It's a great question. There are checkpoints at the control module and the inverters, which could be checked. This is a great question. So in the safety instructions, there was a statement about if the outlet is not accessible, that there must be a switch in the domestic installation to turn off the appliance in the case of an emergency. So the question was about that requirement about using the auxiliary switch to turn off the outlet. Is it okay using a circuit breaker? Yes, you should follow local code, and the local code will dictate the power disconnect for that circuit. So if local code says a circuit breaker is required and that shuts the power off to the outlet, then that is more than acceptable for us. Okay, are there any more questions? I think I've answered all of them and published them so you can reread them. Oh, I missed a few, I'm sorry. Okay, when are in-person trainings being conducted? And we should clear up the misunderstanding around the heater kits. Courtney, can you talk about the requirements of a heater kit on this new platform? Are there any heater kits? Are heater kits required?
Sure. No, there are no heater kits required for these new Thermador refrigeration appliances.
Great, excellent, thank you. In-person training can be requested through your DSM, and the service teams are limited in how many trainings we can do at different locations, but feel free to request it, and we will make every attempt to accommodate. Okay, so this is a really good question. So the question is, if there are two 36-inch single door models installed side by side, are both units allowed to use the same electrical circuit? I would say that really depends, but I think we call out in the requirements that it is on a dedicated circuit. I don't have the answer directly in front of me, but it's a fantastic question. If you want to send me an email or ask the installation hotline, we'll make sure that question is there and available. The answer to that question. Okay. See if there are any new ones coming up. We have a few more minutes. How can I purge the ice maker once it's installed? That is a fantastic question. So how do you purge I assume you mean the water line. So the water line should be purged before connecting the appliance. If it's already been installed, really the only way to do it is to have a service technician perform that purging. But if you're in the middle of, this is an installation training, if you're in the middle of an installation and you've pushed the appliance into the niche, I would recommend sliding it out and purging the water line. Can we add a needle valve to the front for flushing? Does it void the warranty? It would not void the warranty, but you would assume the liability for that connection. So there was a question of, can we add a shutoff valve to the front of the appliance? There is a connection point at the front of the appliance where the filter head attaches to the flexible hose. Breaking that factory seal puts the liability on the person who broke the seal. So if you disconnect that water line there and it starts to leak, or the fitting you've installed starts to leak, you may be held responsible for that. There was a question about shaker panels. Courtney, do we support the use of shaker panels? Depending, I suppose it would be depending on the design of the shaker panel, yes?
So our recommendation for custom panels is a minimum 3/4 width for the entire panel.
So 3/4 inch thickness all the way throughout the panel. Is that correct? Great, thanks, Courtney. We had one more question about the installation hotline. We'll give that out again. It's 800-554-9509. And just a reminder, this installation hotline is intended for installers that are actively performing an installation. If you have some strange spec sheet questions or something like that, feel free to call and ask. But the install hotline is intended for technicians or installers that are on site installing the product. Somebody had asked about arc fault breakers and nuisance tripping. I'm not going to comment on this. Please consult the AHAM white paper. There's a lot of documentation surrounding breaker, nuisance tripping, and appliance compatibility. Courtney, somebody asked just for clarification. So there's no heater kit required for joining two 36-inch single door models. I think there might be some confusion about the columns versus these bottom mounts.
Sure. For the new bottom mount collection, meaning all refrigerators that have just launched this year in 2024, there is no heater kit necessary. And that includes when you're installing two new 36-inch refrigerators side by side. I did see a question about attaching two 36-inch bottom mount refrigerators, and we do have an attachment kit for that. It's called Combi Kit either 10 or 30. I'll look it up and I'll reply to the question in the Q&A.
Great, thank you very much. So this session is recorded, so we're not taking any vocal questions, only via question Q&A. Oh, thank you. So we got a nice comment saying that we appreciate this training. When's the next planned training meeting? The specific date for a second round of training has not been scheduled just yet. I suppose it will be within the next few weeks. We'll do this training again live in case anybody missed it, but we are recording this presentation and training session, and we will place it in one portal where it is accessible for dealers. Can these units be moved with an air sled? That's a fantastic question. Yes, they can be moved with an air sled. You just need to make sure the air sled is towards the outside, but you may have trouble depending on how much the air sled lifts and the spacing of the niche. So you have to make sure you have enough clearance before using an air sled to move it out of the niche. So there was a question about gaining access to BSH1 portal and locating the customer number. For that, I would ask your sales representative, your BSH sales representative, if you're having trouble accessing one portal, they should be able to help you or point you in the right direction. If you are a service provider and don't have access to one portal or you're having trouble logging in, please contact your field service manager. There was a question about the FlexDrawer user interface and protecting it from condensation. The user interface is on the outside of the door, not on the inside of the door, so it's not as subject to the condensation. We do a pretty extensive testing for condensation in the electronics just to make sure that there are no issues and there were no problems with our user interface. Are there any plans for a certification program for installers? That's a fantastic question. Currently, it is not in the immediate near future. We do have some long-term plans for creating a certification program for installers. And when that program is launched and we make that decision, we will communicate it out to the installation fleet. Is it possible to remove the doors and drawers in order to lighten the weight for moving the units? Fantastic question. Yes, it is possible to remove them. For the most of the units, I would not remove the upper door if you don't have to. It's more complicated, but feel free to remove the freezer drawers or the flex drawers. And they come off in the exact same way as they used to for the predecessor. So there's some cams on the side. You rotate them 90 degrees to pull the drawer out. And then there are plastic clips to hold the drawer to the rail. You pop those plastic clips up, you slide them up to release them, and they pivot out just like the predecessor did. If you have a specific question while you're on site or you're struggling with this, feel free to use the installation hotline. They will help you. Okay, so there was a question about the panel installation and alignment. Is the video ready? It is not ready. We will post it fairly soon. You will see it show up on the YouTube channel. So if you like and subscribe to the channel, you'll get a notification when it posts. Yes, we will send out a link to the when the link is posted in one portal, we'll send instructions on how to access it for this training. No, you will not receive a certificate for attending this training. This is just a general public training for any of our dealers or service network that would like to attend. It's a first series of installation training that we're offering to the marketplace, regardless of any form of authorization status. Okay, our time is up. Thank you for all the great questions and participation. Please take a moment to scan that QR code on the left to view the YouTube video. It'll bring you right to the Thermador channel, and you can watch the video from end to end. It covers everything but panel alignment. And your feedback for this training is important. If this is something you would like to have more frequently for all of our products, please let us know. Take that survey. So we think that this is what you were asking for, and we're hoping that we were able to deliver successfully. Well, thank you very much. Have an amazing day. Be safe out there, and thank you for taking care of our consumers and selling Thermador products. Take care.